I want to deal with this part here. It talks about this chapter deals with, can I tell the truth? You know, in the subtitle, Coach, I need a sub. When you're playing sports and stuff, and then there comes a time when you need to raise your hand and be like, I need a sub. I need to sit out for a while. I need to kind of get myself together. So this is the part in the Bible where it talks about, I want to read a passage of scripture. It is from Luke 10, verses 38 through 42, and it's talking about Martha and Mary. We talk about when we go through some grief, we get busier, we want to keep out, but what we really need to do is just sit down at the feet of Jesus and be like, Lord, I need you to pour into me.
Right.
So this is what it says. It said, now it came to pass as they went that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister named Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about much serving, and came to him and said, Lord, doest thou not care that my sister have left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled by many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. So we see one sister who was busy serving, the next sister who was sitting at his feet getting ministered to. So Sister Irene, I know that you are a woman of faith and you love the Lord, and obviously your faith has been the thing that helps sustain you and get you through, has helped to get you through, helping to get you through this situation. So just talk about your faith and how your time of worship, your time of reading the word has been able to help to sustain you through this.
Well, I didn't mention it before, but going through the whole process, even from the original diagnosis all the way through his treatments, my husband's treatments, cancer center here in Tuscaloosa, to them saying that there's nothing else that we can do, all the way to having to go to Houston every other week, to them telling us after 3 months of traveling there to say there's nothing else, well, the experimental treatment didn't work. Well, what else is it that we can do, all the way back to Vanderbilt and Tuscaloosa, to them saying, in Tennessee, to them saying, well, we don't have anything that can help him at this time. Knowing God was there from the beginning with, he opened doors, opportunities that he provided for us, and listening to his spirit, listening to him speak, and listening to his faith in God would actually help guide us through. I don't know. It was just like, to me, I guess that satisfied him through the whole situation. He said, well, even going to Texas, he said, well, if the experimental if the experiment treatment doesn't work for me, maybe it can work for somebody else. Mm-hmm. So when he gathered on that spirit, we know that God was there from the beginning with, it just gave us that relief. People, when they would see him for a long time, they didn't even know that he was sick. People would come to us now and say, well, I didn't even know that he was sick. He wasn't, because he was like the picture of hell. God just had us all the way through the whole situation. So meeting you is no coincidence through school. One day I just said, I'm going to be going to that school, Shelton. I'm going to be returning and going into Shelton. And the day that I did go, and to get registered, and you was like my advisor or teacher for the first semester. And it was just like was an immediate connection there. And that connection has been there since. And we was able to pour, what you've able to pour into me just through speaking and the conversation that we've had. And regardless of what faith, we have the Word of God. It's just been awesome. Just reading Word, reading Scripture, and just the support of just knowing God there. Because like I said, I've listened to everybody else's story, but my story is that, like I told you, he was my best friend. We was married for 31 years. We had just bought a house, and after 3 years we had bought the house, he passed away. So I sit there in that house now alone. And the conversation with him, because our dream was we have a beautiful porch. Sit on the porch was to be in the rocking chair. We always have that dream. When he retired, you're going to see the kids running around in the yard. I go on that porch now, it is very quiet.
Yes.
And then, so even like now, that yard is huge. I was out there yesterday trying to get up limbs. I said, Lord, if I had Sam here, he'll be doing this and he'll be doing that. I wouldn't have to do this. But every time I speak and I say, regardless, when I get into a crisis, I always put him first. I said, Lord, everything happened for a reason. And like your book, our life is that same way. It's like a chapter. So his chapter has come and has gone. So we have to kind of some way, somehow, by God's amazing grace, pick up and move forward to our next chapter. And so that's just kind of the way we have to look at it. He came, he imparted not so much in my life, because he spoiled me. He spoiled the kids and everybody he was surrounded by. Who don't like to be spoiled? Right. But we thank God for that opportunity. So now that he's not there to do the spoiling, but God, he's still there and he's still providing. And I'm just thankful. A lot of time with Dad, when with this illness or the hospitalization, the doctor visits and all of that, a lot of people's they go into bankruptcy and all of that. So it's just things that God allowed us to have in place that I just look at and I just thank him every day. Thank you, for the opportunity. Thank you for having this in place, and thank you for having this in place. And it's those transitions that allowed, to us to allow me to make it from day to day. So I do reading the Word and studying the Word, and having a prayer partner who had lost a spouse, and just things that we've been able to impart to each other. Just been awesome, and we're thankful.
And that's what is wonderful. We heal in community, and just as well as we've conversed. There's some words of encouragement that I needed that they didn't even know. So we kind of just there's some words. Me and TJ talk in the office, see Tiffany in the hallway, and we always have conversations about the situation, and it might be something that they might say that, man, I need to hear that today. You know what I'm saying? Something that I might say they may need to hear it. So the Bible says, out of our belly shall flow rivers of living water. And this is the strange thing about the living waters, is that a lot of time it don't quench our thirst. The waters that we release, it's for somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's why I need to release my waters, and I need to drink from your fountain. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we need each other, because we are, we can, the Bible said, how can two walk together except they be in agreement? So when the Holy Spirit has to give me you something to release, it quenches my thirst. And then when he give me something to release, then it quenches your thirst. And so, baby, you had something you want to say?
Yes, I want to kind of piggyback from the chapter you was talking about. Can we be honest? Yeah. Can we be truthful?
To kind of tell the truth, yeah.
And can I tell the truth? And one of the things was telling the truth. Anthony was talking about when you have your God fits, having your God fit. And one of my God fits was, this was a test of my faith. This was a test of my faith because when it happened, I was like, okay, God, now I know that you are the all-living God. You are a truthful God, and there is nothing that you cannot do. So tell me, why did you not save my son? You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the moments that I had, being truthful. It was like, so I'm like, God, I felt like I was in a dark place. And being a woman of faith and being spiritual, I prayed, being an intercessor, praying a lot. I would always pray and always praying for everybody else. And I'm like, God, I'm at home hours, because, I'm at home and I'm not working. And one of the things that he gave me, this was my job. Because my job was to be praying for my husband, praying for my family, praying for the people I know, my church family, or whatever. And all the time, I'm always praying, or I'm always fasting, whatever. And I'm like, God, I'm praying for everybody and things you show me, but you ain't show me this. So what is it? You didn't show me. I didn't see this coming, or whatever. And so, I went to God and I said, God, I'm lost. I said, I think everything I believed in, or everything that I had in me that I felt was my belief or my faith, I said, God, it's gone. I don't even know what to believe now. You know what I'm saying? It was like how I was at a process in my life that I was questioning God. And, a lot of times when we grow up and different stuff like that, and you're dealing with church and religion and stuff like that, and people always tell you, you never question God. Whatever he do, you just got to take it, suck it up, and go with it. But one of my issues was, I'm like, okay, God, my faith, it's shattered. I don't even know what to believe. And I'm like, okay, why didn't you? Because I know that you can do anything. And it was a process for me because, sometimes you watch the TV and you watch the miracles and you see people and they say, well, my family, somebody in my family went through this, or my brother or my sister went through this and they was in a coma for, a year or 5 days or whatever, and God he just woke them up, and they were healed, and all this kind of stuff, and this happened to them. And so I'm at this process now. I'm still like, okay, what's wrong with me? Why you didn't heal my son? Why you had to take my son, whatever. And in that, I had to learn that it was okay for me to question him. Because if I didn't question him, who was I going to get the answers from? Man couldn't tell me the answers. Right. Man couldn't tell me, you know what I'm saying? Man couldn't tell me the answers. Man couldn't give me strength, or whatever. Okay, if I didn't go and bring this hurt that I was feeling, if I didn't bring it to him, then I was going to get the wrong answer from somebody else. So that was one of my being truthful. My faith was really shattered. And I remember, even after the day he passed and, we came home and everything, and I was just so tore up, I remember just it was this strong feeling, this strong choking feeling and disappointment, like I couldn't breathe. It was like, I'm like, okay, I can't breathe. So what do I got to do with this? So I got in the bed, I laid down, went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, and when I got up, I could hear the birds chirping the next morning. And I got up and I washed my face. And I'm like, okay, God, so I couldn't read my Bible. It was a minute. I couldn't pick the Bible up. I couldn't pray. It was no words to be uttered to me. Nothing to be said. What anybody said, and then, but I didn't want to tell anybody else because, being spiritual people, you having this, people expecting you, to be praying. They expecting you to be at a place. They're not expecting you to actually take the time to grieve, take the time to feel what's going on. So one of my truthful moments was, okay, don't call me. I don't want to hear nothing about no scriptures. What you saying, this is this in the Bible, this is that, because it was something that I was going through. And it was something that was so hard for me. And sometimes I think we're not able to grieve, or we're not able to get to a place when we're going through with God because we hear what other people saying. Other people say we should do this or we should do that because you know the word. You know what I'm saying? You know the word. So this is what's the scripture? Was it Moses? They grieved for how many days he gave him to
30
grieve?
days,
He let them grieve for 30 days. So I think a lot of times people put that on us. You only have a certain time to grieve, and because you spiritual and you know the word, you gonna grieve these days right here, and then you get yourself up and you wash your face and it's over with. How long will you mourn? Right.
But y'all, I think. Go ahead. Yeah.
How long will you mourn? You take about Tupac. Right? How long will you mourn me? But when we talk about the real moment, I remember I remember us traveling to Huntsville, and it was something that my mom said that I couldn't understand it, because she said, T.A., the Lord loaned me Galen for 23 years. And I had to give them back. And I said, what? That sounds...
That don't sound right.
That's crazy as all get out. And I'm processing that. Like, that's insane for you to say that, but you're the mother. Like you said, you knew something was wrong. Mm-hmm. She knew something was wrong. Because my mom was praying, and sometimes I'm like, I just can't, I don't see what you're seeing, but she's seen it. Yeah. And so, when everything was happening, she knew inside of her that something was wrong that morning. She just knew it. And the way the Lord works is, I remember my brother coming home. He had a dentist appointment, and my mother was the caregiver for my grandmother. And my real moment, I was so consumed with work and trying to make sure you make the money, and I was young and I was doing these things. We talk about how we would go to work and we do all these things, and I would help when I would help her caregiver for my grandmother when I had time. My brother came back for a dentist appointment, and I can remember she saying, "Oh yeah, Galen helped get your grandma in the bed. Don't worry about coming." And after everything happened, my grandmother said, TJ, he just had a glow about himself that day. It was just a glow about him. I just didn't understand what that glow was until after everything had transpired. And so I can remember, with faith, everybody talks about, you got faith, and you hear all these songs, and you're in the church, and you hear people talking about, faith will get you through it. But my moment of faith was when I said, when it was like, you got faith, but you don't know it until you got to activate it.
Right. Yeah.
That's when you got faith, is when you when you have to activate what you've been praying, what you've been asking for, and then all of a sudden you like, well, now I got to make a decision. Now I got to, I really got to trust you. But yeah, there are times when you don't want to hear the word. You don't want to hear a song. Yeah. You don't want to hear somebody come up to you and talk to you about it. And you borderline, because you grow up, you don't question God.
Right.
You don't question Him. But then you turn around and say, but I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to hear what you got to say. Let me just go in my room and sit, and then I'll have it out with whoever I need to have it out with. But you don't know about faith until you really have to activate what you've been talking about and preaching about. So
I was thinking about the greatest position that any believer can get in is when they become honest with God.
Yes.
Because the Bible says in James 5:16, it says, confess your faults one to another and pray that you may be healed. The fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. So this is the thing about confession. In this stage of my life, is that if and I know the Bible says death and life is in the power of the tongue, and I know that we confess the word from a positive confession. But I was confessing the word. Jesus said something very important. He said, you worship me with your lips, but your heart is far from me. You know what I'm saying? So my deliverance came when I started confessing from my heart, not the word, but confessing my faults to God. I'm angry.
Yes.
I don't understand this,
Yes.
God.
Yes.
I don't like feeling this way. You know, when I started confessing my faults and really coming transparent before God and really just opening up to Him and letting Him see into my heart, because Jesus said, I stand at the door and knock and I come to sup with you. You know what I'm saying? But we have to allow Him to come in. So when I became to a place of honesty with God, that shifted me to a place of trust. But I was able to get it out. So I want to go into this next segment. I want to talk about the well. When I grew up in the country, we had wells. And in the wells, you know, sometimes you had to prime the pump, and then then when you cut the water on, then the water always come out dirty first. You know, we've been playing ball all day and we tired, you know, but we let that water run for a while, and then all of a sudden, all of us will be up under there with our hands like this, and man, we'll be drinking that good old well water. But we had to let it run first. We had to let all the dirty water get out. And that's where you've been, you know, maybe getting therapeutic help, you know, going to see a therapist, so you can get all the dirty out. You know, you can really be totally honest. You can really just express how you really feel. You know, and so many times as people of faith, you know, we hide behind the mask, and we wanna show ourselves as a strong person of faith. You know, we wanna show ourselves that we got it all together. You know, how you doing? Blessed and highly favored, you know, and all those different type of things. but if the Bible said that God hates a liar, then why would He want you to lie to yourself? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a place of honesty that you have to get to be able to get to your place of liberty. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the difficult things to do, is because, like I said, we built this image about ourselves that we have it all together, you know. But Paul said in the Bible, he said that he had a thorn in his flesh that buffeted him. You know what I'm saying? And then Jesus come back and said that my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect, meaning mature in your weakness. So we're actually more mature now as believers than we were before the tragedy, because His grace, His strength, His grace is made perfect in our weakness, meaning that now I have no other choice but to depend on God.
Yes.
So I want you guys, Anthony, to talk to me about confession and acknowledgement, and how you had to get to a place to really admit that you was wounded and you needed help.
Well, I want to backtrack 1 second, but you know, the truth, you know, the God fit or whatever. I feel, and I think we all been there. If we hold it in, all we're doing is enabling the enemy to pull us further away from God.
That's true.
You know, and you know, that was one thing for me, especially that day. You know, when I said your will, not mine, because I just felt it was just something coming over me that was just, I just felt like it was gonna be bad. You know, didn't throw anything, but I just knew something. And you know, it was kind of like the enemy's like throwing coal onto a fire, you know. This fire's gonna build. Just hold it in. Don't say anything. Just be the strong person. Be strong, and it was gonna explode. But back to what you're saying on this part, acknowledging, daily process.
Yes.
Daily process. Because I still think I can do everything. I still think I can save everybody. I still, you know, I got this, God. I mean, I know that you say that peace be still, wait on the Lord, but I got this. And I'm learning daily that I don't have it. You know, I don't have it. The more my profession, I'm in hospitality, and just like you guys, everybody here probably made something. We'll just say something simple like grits. I don't eat grits. I don't taste them, but I can cook them. Okay. You can look at the instructions, and they'll come out where everybody here would eat them. Perfect. Or, well, I'm going to add some garlic to them because this is what I want to do. You want to put your own spin on things. I'm going to add I might even just add some onion to it. Somebody's going to eat it though, but I'm going to add oatmeal and make some type of fusion. You know, you just gotta, like I say, what you've got to do is just give it all to God, give it all to Him. Lean, not on your own understanding, but give it to Him. For me, the acknowledgement is I can't do it all. I can't save everybody. I don't try. Well, that's kind of a lie. I do try. But, I'm getting stronger knowing that I can't save everybody. I've got to spend what I've started doing, and this is even more recently. It's a backtrack, but talk about the fact you didn't want to hear, you didn't want to read the Bible. After funeral, we went to church and all that, but all of a sudden we just pulled completely like, I'm not going. It didn't do anything for me, Go if you want to. Go if you want to go. But I'm not going. I'm good. These people never go and they're doing this. Everybody's healthy in the family. He never went to church.
Wow.
I would be at my restaurant. I would see somebody walk in. It may be a family with grandparents, 80, 90 years barely moving, and the enemy would say, took your son.
They still here.
Right.
Yeah.
They can barely move. Took your son. And, it just creates a wedge. Talk about that wedge. It just started driving a wedge. And I had to get to a point where I realized that the more I could travel down that path, it wasn't going to be good for my family.
Right.
Because your kids, we talk about how we want to impact them. They feed off of what you do.
That's true.
And what I wanted to do was say, I want to live I strive daily to do the right things. I don't want to say I'm religious because religious is a term that's it's a misnomer.
Right.
I want to live the life so when my day is done, God will say, well done, thy good and faithful servant. And I will see my son again because the life that he lived, I already know where he is.
Yeah.
He's already, and next month he's going to have on the anniversary of his death, he will have a party, It was never the time he didn't want one. But, it's just, acknowledging that you can't do it all. Others are grieving.
Yes.
Others need your help.
Yes.
There are people right now, every time you turn on the news, I stopped watching the news for a while. It's something happening. Knowing that we got a purpose.
Yes.
Everybody in this room, everybody that's went through what we're doing, it's our job to help somebody come back to where we are now. And here's the thing, we're not where we're gonna get because there's so many levels to this.
Right.
I would say right now, maybe 70% of where I'm gonna get in this aftermath. And I don't know what everybody else's level is. We all can gauge it differently. Some of our walks with God are closer than others, so that has a lot to do with it. But I think we're charged with, like they say, like everybody says, go out and teach about Jesus. Go out and let everybody know that there's life after this tragedy. But I don't know, man. I mean, I just started. I went to a different way, like you say. Once you're in something, once it starts flowing, you got to go with what's coming out of you. You've got to go with what's coming out of you. But I just think, I am thankful for the opportunity to be here and hear you guys, everybody's story, because we've all been there. We're still going through it. This is going to help a lot of people that go, you know what? I'm just like that. This happened to me. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, really? They all question God. We were taught, never to do that.
Right.
We've got, the average everyday person question God. We've got men and women of God questioning. So I'm normal.
Right.
This is a normal thing.
Well, the Bible says that we have not because we ask not. And so I guess I was a bit of a rebel growing up. I was just going to ask God because I don't understand this whole thing of us not asking, not communicating when He wired me so differently. I have to communicate. I got to talk it out. I need to understand. I need to hear from you. I need to know we're in relationship like we say that we are with Him. How can we be in relationship when we don't ask questions? He'll talk back to us. One thing that I think in this process, and we've always said, it's our faith that has sustained us, and we came to a place where we learned to trust Him for real, or trust Him differently, or whatever. But oftentimes, I find it's not just us Christians that are facing death. It's people, period. And so when we are dealing with people, period, God has not just called us just to other Christians,
That's right.
He told us to go out in the highways and hedges and compel others to come. So there's a whole other people other than us church folk that are dealing with things. We're not dealing with things right, obviously. That's been said around the room this morning. We're not dealing with things right because we want to sweep things under the rug and pretend and hide behind our church cliches and our sayings and whatever. And I got the Spirit of God, and I've been saved 30 years, and so I know He with me. But how do we face it?
Right.
How do we face it?
Yes.
How do we tell the truth? How do we do these things when what we've been taught, what we are accustomed to is telling us to do just the opposite? You ask me how I'm doing, I'm blessed.
Right.
Okay.
But that ain't got nothing to do with how you doing. I'm not doing well. I remember a year and a half ago, I was going through this situation that was not, let's say, a physical death, but it was, let's say, a death of a relationship, and it was very difficult for me. And I got to work that morning, and I was just hurt, and it just felt like I couldn't even take a deep breath, like you say, just choking from disappointment and just hurt. And I remember calling TJ and I said, "Are you here?" And he said, "What's the matter? Did I do something?" Why he thought that? Did I do something? I was like, "No, I just need a brother, And he said, "I'll be there." And he came and I was just able to get out. He didn't say a word. He sat there in the chair, folded his arms and crossed his legs. And he listened to me, and I'm mad, and I am mad. Probably cussing mad. I don't know if I cussing
No, you ain't
mad.
cussing.
I ain't cussing, but I was mad. I I was mad, and I was like, I just don't understand, and I love God, and I've been doing this, and I'm doing that, and he just sat there, and he just listened to me. I felt so much better afterwards. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just because I was able to get it out. And we got to flush out all of the junk. I was not able to make a decision in that moment. You know what? And even during that time, I was dealing with a death, because that's when my mom's twin sister had just died that same week. And I'm trying to get the family together. We got to fly to Minnesota. My mom is doing the eulogy, trying to see about her, trying to see about my uncle that I sent. It was a lot. And I was like, I can't even make a decision. I can't even breathe. I went to the doctor, and she said, Miss Mouse, what's wrong? And I just broke down and started crying, and she just stood there, and she's like, well, okay, I'm going to give you something for that. And, and I took my medicine, too. I did. Yes, I did. In Jesus' name, I took my medicine, and I had my powwow with my brother, and I screamed, and I hollered, and I came home when the kids were not there yet, and it was complete utter silence in the house, so silent it felt like it was just stabbing me, and I screamed to the top of my lungs, and the neighbors didn't hear, or they didn't come, I don't know, the police didn't get called, but I had to get it out. And I think that that's the first step of faithing it. We keep talking about we trusted in God, and we got faith in him now, but how do you get there? And we first have to get there by being honest with ourselves about where we are in that moment. Not just one day at a time, but one moment at a time. I couldn't even figure out how, when I woke up that morning, how I was going to make it to the end of the day. When I woke up that morning, how am I going to even be able to get in there and wash my face? It's a process to get from the bed to the bathroom. It's a process to get from the bathroom to your closet or whatever. It's a process. So in each moment, acknowledge it, consume, let it, take over you in that moment. So this is really how I feel. You know what? I'm so frustrated, and to the back of my neck hurt. I just, whatever it is, but you gotta acknowledge it.
People, I want people to take from this is to understand it. You have to be truthful.
You have to
with yourself about it, because I can remember, you talked about the hardest night, and we all probably can relate to just the night of going to sleep. And we hear people talk about opioids and crisis and all of these different things. What happens when you can't go to sleep?
When that happens.
When it happens. You have your moment where you can't go to sleep, and you do go to, my medication of choice was, because it happened, was Benadryl. Because I knew Benadryl would knock me out. And I could go to sleep. And I can get through the sleep part of it, the night.
Next day.
But that next day,
Yes.
you still got the function. And then you go through the next day and you say, well, if it worked that night, I can go and get another Benadryl. But I was masking the sleep.
That's it. Yeah.
But I was, making myself at a point function without really understanding the true side of, getting to know and being truthful to yourself. I think, Tiffany, I would tell me, brother, you just take it over the top sometimes. But I'm going to say it because people don't understand. And and it's an analogy that I've been dealing with. We would have true moments about our sexuality. And we would say, I want pleasure. But why wouldn't you be truthful with yourself about this issue and pleasure yourself in getting to know him, to understand it? that it would be good for you to release it, because most times everybody hear the biblical side of different things, and it's not always right for they tell me hey, don't compare things to. I say, but there are people who need to hear the raw truth, as opposed to you telling me, hey, you need to go, you'll find it in here. It's somewhere between Genesis and Revelation. You'll find it. But what do you do when your mother is telling you she want to commit suicide? Or your sister hadn't talked about it, or you hadn't changed the room in a year, and you want to get the trophies and get all of these things and pile them up, and you want to, and that bed had never been touched.
I think we have to deal with, like you say, the heart of the matter.
The heart of the matter.
My brothers, for me, my mom passed when I was 7, so I was raised by my brothers, even though I had sisters. And I think for me, it's like, I feel like I missed that nurturing part. You know, I don't know how to be soft. So, and as the day got closer for me to graduate, I'm not thinking about graduation. I'm thinking about, wow, I made myself a promise. I'm going to open that autopsy. To this day, I have not done it yet. And for me, you know, I still have to process his death. I still have to deal with his death. Everybody's like, oh, well, you have those beautiful grandkids. Yeah, but they are a reminder to me of him. I love them to death, but they are a reminder of what was taken from me. I didn't have time to say, you know, anything, whatever, couldn't physically hold him or, you know, whatever. And for me, I was so angry. For a whole year, nobody knew where he was buried other than me and my pastor. He honored my wishes after the funeral. You know, he said that burial will happen at a later date because I'm not originally from here. Everybody thought I was having his body sent back home, but I wasn't. And I had to get to a place where I said, okay, you have to stop thinking about self.
Wow.
He has kids that need to go and visit his grave. He has friends that want to go and visit. But I was so angry because he was taken from me. Why should I share with anybody else where he is right now? And, you know, and I had to get to that place where I had to reconnect with God. And I know we talk about, you know, we hide behind, you know, the sayings and this and that. But when it comes to it, you actually, just like with you guys that are married, if you have your spouse, you know, and when you're trying to get her or him, you know, you're going to court them. You're going to spend some time with them. You're going to spend some money on them. You're going to invest in them. Right. If you really want to know God, you got to spend some time with him. You got to invest in him. You got to get in his word and listen to what his word say. Everything that, and I tell people, they were, oh, well, the preacher preached today. That wasn't for me. I said, when you go to a buffet and you eat, everything that's on that table, you're not going to eat. It's not for you.
That's right.
It's for somebody else.
Right.
But you still go and receive, be poured into. I had to allow the word to pour back into my spirit so that my spirit could come alive again.
Yes.
I was spiritually dead. You know, I was existing. I wasn't living. And I told people I didn't know how to live until my son died. I was always work, church, home, work, church, home, work, church, home. There's other things other than that. You know, there is more to life. Yes, there is more to life. But, you know, we have to be willing to get to that moment to accept that and, you know, just believe and trust that, okay, I am going to be okay. But this is a process. And it's okay to go through that process.